Hey guys, we are back for Lovecraft Country Season 1, Episode 2. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to your girl. Greatly appreciate it, and it's absolutely free. This episode is called Whitey's on the Moon, which is based on the Gil Scott Heron poem. If you guys aren't familiar with Gil Scott Heron, another poem that everybody should know that he wrote is "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." Anyway, just a tidbit, food for thought. Anyway, from there, not from anywhere. It starts off where it left off yesterday when Tick and them, they arrived at this huge like castle manor place or whatnot, and it's the next day, and they are all in their own respective rooms. So, and then all of a sudden we just start hearing the song "Moving On Up" from the Jeffersons, and it's like this whole little montage of Uncle George and Letty putting on different outfits, and Uncle George is in this big library. His room has a huge library in it of all these books that he would love to read, and Letty has all these clothes and everything, but we don't see Tick yet and everything, having a good old time. Like, they sure are in a great mood for them to have been attacked by some type of weird vampire monster. I don't know what the hell them things was, turkey monsters, because they sound like turkeys. I'm like, oh. Anyway, so I'm like, this is just super weird. So out of nowhere, they hear and then it finally ends on Tick, who just sitting there contemplating. He changed his clothes too because they was all bloody and stuff. But he's the only one that looks like he done been through it. Everybody else looks like they're in a really good mood. So from there, all of a sudden, a little siren or a noise happens that sounds like an alarm. They all come out the room. And then the little friend who answered the door talking about some welcome home, he comes out and he was like, oh, I'm just announcing that it's going to be breakfast time. So they all get up and get ready and go to breakfast. So from there, they go and they're like, oh, Tick is asking all these questions like, where my father at? Homeboy's talking about some, your father left with Miss Braithwaite or whatnot, and they went to Boston or something for some lawyer shit, some shit. It sounded like bullshit. I'm like, he lying. And then talking about some where they went, ain't no telephones where they could be reached. I'm like, that's a lie. So they still don't know, have no idea where Tick's father Montrose is. And I'm like, where is this man at? I thought he was gonna be in the house. He ain't. So then, as he's taking them to where they're going to eat breakfast, he gives them a little bit of backstory on the manor and the man who owned the manor or whatnot. Forgot his name. Was it Atticus? I don't remember, because I know Tick's name is Atticus, but I swear his name might have been, it was something, y'all. I can't remember the man's name. And whatnot. So the story of this man is he made this lodge or whatnot, and he was a slave owner, but he was known to be notoriously kind to his slaves or whatnot. And one day some shit happened or popped off there where there was a huge fire where the original manor was burned down and only one person escaped. So that was a random story that was thrown in. It was like, okay, sounds weird. So from there they go to breakfast, and after that, after homeboy leave, Tick is like, because Letitia was like ringing the bell asking for some salt and shit, and he's like, Letty, how can you even eat right now after what happened last night? She's like, what are you talking about? He was like, the monsters and all this and people, the sheriff died. She's like, you killed the sheriff, blah blah blah. So it's like she's completely oblivious to what's going on, and so is Uncle George. He seems kind of like out of it too. And then I'm like, oh shit, they don't. So at this point we realized that Uncle George and Letty do not remember everything that happened last night. All they remember was from the point where the sheriff stopped them, and all of a sudden they end up at this manor or whatnot. But Uncle George stops Tick while he's talking, because it was clear that they were still being watched by homeboy. So it's like, don't say too much, because you know these people are being nice to us now, but we don't know their motives at this point. So let's just be cool until, you know, don't give them a reason to not be nice to us, because they could fuck us up. We don't know shit. We sitting up in here and we don't know what's going on. So from there, Tick was they were like they want to go out into the rest of the town in Artem or whatever, because they're in Artem or whatever. And he was like, yeah, sure, as long as y'all are back before sundown for dinner. And then they go, as they're walking, he goes and he's like, oh, he has Woody there, the car or whatnot. And all of a sudden, the car is completely repaired. Ain't nothing wrong with it. And then Tick is like, oh, hell no, this can't be the car, because it was completely like pretty much total. And he was like, well, this homeboy talking about this is how he found the car, and it looked perfectly fine. I just drove it up from where I found it over the bridge. I'm like, okay, he just straight up lying. But anyway, Tick got brush it off. So they walk over into town and they're talking, but Letty, kind of pauses back and talks to George like she's trying to chalk up Tick's memories or whatnot, talking about maybe he came back from the war and maybe he a little shell shocked, or he just, they think he lost his marbles a little crazy. Tick heard her. He was like, I ain't lost shit, girl. This is what happened last night. I don't know why y'all don't remember, but we was attacked by some monsters and shit got real. I don't remember whatnot. And then all of a sudden, as he's talking to them and trying to tell them that he ain't crazy, he hears that whistle that got rid of the monsters last night. So he's running to whoever that is blowing that whistle, and then he run up. It's this white chick who got like two fucking crazy barking ass dogs and shit. I can't stand dogs like that, but whatever. They're probably like guard dogs, whatever. He was like, were you there last night in the woods? And she's like, I don't know who you are or what you doing. He's talking about you need to get them dogs or whatever. And then she was like, y'all need to get him because he running up on people and all that. And then George asked her if she's the sheriff of the town or what. And she was like, no, or whatnot. He was like, oh, because she was standing in front of this big ass dungeon looking tower ass place. He's like, oh, because that building looks like it would be the jailhouse or whatever of this town, because it's the only one that has like such the stone structure or whatnot. And she was like, no, this is where I guess they keep their meat or something because big black bears come in and sticking their nose in and start making like comparisons, trying to say that they're the big black bears or whatnot who come in and sticking their nose in where they don't belong. And he informed, I don't know if Tick or whatever informed her that they were guests of the Braithwaites or whatnot. And she's like, oh, you don't seem like people that he would keep around or whatnot, but nonetheless, make sure that y'all are backups. Why don't y'all head back up that way and get the hell out of the town? So I'm like, oh, y'all, you rude bitch. So from there, and they George walked in a little bit into the little dungeon looking ass place. It was dark as fucking. All you see is meat hanging. And after he walked out, he told Tick and Letty like that place is definitely the way it's structured to definitely have like a bottom dungeon type area, and that's probably where they're keeping Montrose, Tick's father. So they're like, okay, mental note, we need to come back and see what the fuck is going on, because it was like, yeah, you probably have somebody down there and nobody could hear them scream and all types of shit. So anyway, they go back and head back towards through the woods back towards the big ass castle manor of the Braithwaites and all that. When they're doing that, it's already dark. I'm like, y'all trying to be in the dark in the woods again? You saw what happened last night? Y'all don't listen. So all of a sudden, George pauses, and he was like, he started thinking. He was like, this reminds me of something that your mother told me about your birthright. And he was like, so my mama told you? My mama never spoke to my dad about any of this type of stuff. Why would she talk to you about it? I was like, yes. Why would she talk to your uncle and not your father about this? So he goes on to tell this story about how she told him her great-great-great-great-grandmother Hannah was a slave, and she escaped through in a fire or whatnot, and she ran through woods like that. And I was like, so that's putting kind of two and two together, like maybe Hannah was the only survivor who escaped during that lodge when it was burnt down, from the story that homeboy was telling him earlier. And he was notoriously close to his slaves. And so that's like adding up to, it was pretty obvious, like, okay, so the whatever people, the main dude who was the slave owner was probably super nice to the slave Hannah, probably fucking her, and she was the only one that survived, and she was pregnant, and that ends up being his great great grandmama. So that's why he has a direct bloodline to homeboy who was in the whose castle or whatever it originally was. So put that all together. Anyway, as he was saying that, as again I said, it is nighttime and they shouldn't be in the fucking woods again at night. They should have walked a little faster. All of a sudden we hear and those fucking demon monster things come up out of the fucking ground and shit, and is about to attack them. But then we hear that whistle again, and it's homegirl come up, and it's that one lady from last episode who helped them get away from them racist people with the same car that we saw. And that turns out, I think her name is Charlotte Braithwaite, and she is the one that was helping them and was following Tick from the jump or whatnot. So she instructs homegirl for them all to come back. They all go back into their to escort Letty and Uncle George back to their room, and she takes Tick with her. Or whatnot, and then all of a sudden we see some dude on a table, and he getting his and somebody else in a fucking hood. I don't trust nobody in hoods and dark, you can't see their face, and somebody operating on him and taking out one of his organs. I'm not good with anatomy, y'all. Was that I guess it was one of his organs, y'all. Maybe a liver, I don't know. Took something out, and all of a sudden Tick is just watching this shit. It's like, what the fuck? And in the same time, we see the girl Charlotte. So it turns out that's her father or whatnot. I don't remember his name, but Mr. Braithwaite or whatever. And he just gets up and he starts talking. And none other is it Tony Goldwyn, Fitz from Scandal, y'all. I'm happy to see Fitz, but I'm like, okay, Fitz, don't come in here starting stuff. But he gets up off this, because I couldn't tell who it was at first, but it was him. And he goes to he's talking to Tick or whatnot, and he's telling this story and asking, do he remember some Bible quotes or whatnot, and it was about some with Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden and all that stuff. So he was just, and Charlotte, or I think her name's Charlotte, I'm just gonna call her Charlotte, she was quoting or whatever. He was like testing and asking, like, do y'all know this quote or blah blah blah. And then it was the story of Adam and Eve, and he was saying how it was Adam's job to make sure that everybody was in their place. And I'm like, what you talking about? I'm talking about everybody in their place. And then Tick was like, oh, so who are you supposed to be in the story of Adam and Eve and all that? Are you God? And he was like, no, I'm Adam. So I'm like, okay. And then he goes to tell him, oh, and then he had to make this look, when he got up off the table and saw Adam, because he was, I could have swore he said, you're darker than I thought you would be. I'm like, really, nigga? That's his great, 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 great ancestor. So if everybody else fucked somebody that was black, you don't know what color person gonna be. Ain't like what you thought he was gonna be, light-skinned it or whatnot. No, he's very chocolicious, okay? But yeah, so from there, he's telling him, what he tell him? That's what he needs his help, or needs him for this so-called dinner and ceremony that they plan to do later on that evening. So okay, I'm like, what kind of ceremony? Because you sitting here cutting your own organs out and all this other shit. I don't want to be a part of no ceremony that they got going on later on that day. But ain't like they got no choice. But it's pretty clear that they can't leave on their own accord, even if they wanted to at this point. So as Atticus he dismisses him to Charlotte. He was like, I don't want to see him until dinner or some shit. And then Charlotte takes him back to his room, and he was like, she was telling him, like, you know what, it's better to have the rest of the lodge members will be here, are going to be arriving soon, so it's better to have friends than enemies. It's like, just because my father looked a little feeble at that point, he's, him and all the other lodge members are very dangerous, so you should be trying to make friends, because every white person ain't out to get you. I'm like, girl, y'all ain't trustworthy either, so bye. And it ain't got nothing to do with y'all being white. If I saw anybody of any color doing what y'all was doing, I wouldn't trust your ass either. So anyway, she was like, oh, so y'all on some clan shit. I get why he think it was some Klan shit because they had the hoods and shit. I was like, nah, this is something different, homie. This is something different. And she was like, oh no, my father and his members would not fraternize with no Klan members. They're too poor. Exactly, because they aim real small, trying to get any other black person they want. These people own some big shit, like big shit, rule the world type, Illuminati type shit. These people ain't on no look, I'm gonna burn some crosses on your line type shit. Klan is whack. Anyway, not that they cool, but I'm just saying, Klan is just, they all stupid. But anyway, so he was like, there's gotta be, he's like, how come, you know, they don't remember all the stuff that was going on with the monsters and stuff. And she was like, oh, he's like, it's got to be some type of spell. He says to her, it has to be some type of spell or whatnot. She was like, yeah, those creatures are so she admitted, yeah, there is a certain type of spell that they all cast. He's like, it wasn't just on them, it's for anybody who sees those animals and lives to see another day and they don't get killed by them. They automatically have a spell, I guess, in play that the people who see them won't remember. And he was like, well, you talking about being friends and whatnot. Friends is about actions, not just saying some shit that you gonna do. If you really want to be friends with me or whatnot, take the spell off of them so they can remember what had happened. And she was like, done. And then all of a sudden you hear them screaming from the other fucking room because now they remember what the fuck happened. They trying to get the fuck up out of there. So but then Tick tries to leave out of his room and there's like some type of force field and shit, so he can't leave out. And he's like, oh hell no. So at this point they're all kind of locked into their respective rooms. Charlotte walk away, and then what happened? Hold on, y'all. Whew. Oh, and when they're in this room, Uncle George goes and he's looking through the books because he's in this huge room with these books. And even Tick kind of said, like, don't y'all think it's suspicious that you in a room full of books and you love to read, you in a room full of clothes that fit you exactly. And I don't know what Tick's room, it just didn't seem like it was just whatever, like, because he didn't care anyway. But Uncle George sees this book and he pulls it down, and it turns out it leads to a secret passageway to go into this room. And when he goes into this room, he sees a book that says the Sons of Somebody or the Order or something, which is the group that those lodge members, that's what they call themselves. I can't remember. It's the Sons of Adam, I think, or something like that, or there's something like that. And he goes and he reads that, and then Letty, then all of a sudden we hear another, wait, no, not yet. So as he's in there, Tick's in the room and he's trying to communicate with Uncle George or knock to the next room. So the person here, then all of a sudden something jumps up out of the wardrobe. Some Asian chick jumps out and starts attacking him, slicing and dicing. He was like, stop, I don't want to hurt you, and doing all this crazy shit. And that's what's going on in his room. And then Uncle George, he sees another book in his room and he pulls on that and he turns around. It's a light or whatnot. And it turns out it's like a ghost or something. It's Atticus's mama. And I'm like, why would his mama appear? Well, his brother's wife appeared to him. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And in Letty's room, we see because Letty was trying to like get out of the room because she sees she got her memory back, and then all of a sudden she hears somebody trying to open her door, so she hide with her knife, and then who bursts in the room is Atticus or whatnot. And then he's like, yeah, she's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't believe you. He was like, it's good. She's like, we need to get out of here. He's like, no, we can't just run up out of here, so we gotta have a plan, and I might have a way that we can get out of here or whatnot. And then she goes, and we get to learn a little bit more about Letty in this scene. She because I always thought it was really weird how her relationship was with her family was strained, and she go home on a funeral and all that. So she goes on to tell us about like when she was talking about as I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, I'll fear no evil or something like that. She was talking to Atticus, and then she's like, I haven't said that. She's like, I can't believe I haven't said that because I haven't said that since I was a little girl and I was so scared. She says, why she was so scared. She tells a story about how her mom used to leave at night all the time and say she was going to church. She was like, I was a kid, but I knew she wasn't going to church. She's like, she would come back every night, and she would come back with a different man or whatnot. And then she's like, one time she didn't come back, and a whole, I think, week or something went by, and she's like, I was so afraid. I didn't know how to take care of myself. Her mother abandoned her. So I'm like, now I understand why you didn't go to your mama's funeral, because she wasn't shit. But I'm like, damn, that's still fucked up though. So she was just saying how, we get why she is the way she is and how she got abandonment issues. And then Tick goes to tell her, I will never abandon you. And then they start kissing and stuff, and it gets kind of hot and heavy. And so from there, we see Uncle George talking to Tick's mama. And then all of a sudden they start dancing and talking and reminiscing about how they used to hang out and play this game of what if and all this other stuff, and about his brother and all this. And I was like, why you dancing with him? I'm like, y'all seem real close, but that's to be your brother's wife and everything. So I'm like, they definitely had something going on. I'm like, it's a little shady up in here. And from there, she was telling him like, when they were playing the game back in the day of what if his was what if he could fly. And then she was like, yeah, you could have that, all that and more now here or some shit. I was like, what the fuck? So it was all so weird. So this, of course, is a hallucination. And then she was trying to kiss him or whatnot, and he, backed away because he knew it wasn't real. And then she kind of disappeared. So again, like I said, Tick is in the room fighting some ninja chick or whatever. So I'm like, that ain't Tick who in the room with Letty, because it took me a second to have to switch over and jump to the other side, jump to the other scene. I was like, oh hell no, what kind of witchcraft is this? Because that is not Tick. And then as they were getting hot and heavy, Tick, or this whatever this fake thing is, stands up. And earlier we see this portrait of Adam and Eve, or maybe it wasn't Adam and Eve, it was Eve and the serpent or something, because I don't know if it was Eve, but the serpent was coming out of as the penis and to enter or whatever, Eve or whatnot. So when Atticus stood up and was trying to take his clothes off and everything, Letty was like, let's just stop. And he wouldn't stop, and he just started looking crazy. And I was like, well, we already know that that's not him. And then he opened his pants and a snake came out. Y'all, I am so terrified of snakes. That shit would have freaked me the fuck out. I would have screamed and ran, and then started trying to, guess he was trying to rape her with it. It was super crazy and scary. But from there, as all that was going down, all of a sudden again, and then Atticus is in his room and he kills the little Asian chick or whatever, like soldier or whatever she was, because y'all know he was in the war. So we hear that fucking alarm or bell or something go off again, and they all come out of their room and everybody seems fine. So I was like, okay, these are all hallucinations. And then we see that it jumps over to another scene where it's a whole bunch, I guess, all the lodge members now, and you can see in each and every room. So they were just watching them under these spells or whatnot for their own amusement to see. I'm like, oh, like they're fucking an exhibit in a zoo, like they're fucking animals. And I'm like, oh, it just makes me angry. And I guess that was their pre-dinner entertainment, was to fuck with them and all that. So they're able to leave out of their rooms at this point. And then homeboy is like, oh, it's 15 minutes until dinner time. And dinner time is black tie, and it's men only, unfortunately. But Letty can go have dinner on the veranda or some shit. And I'll be back in 15 minutes to escort y'all. And you can see that they all look very traumatized. And it turns out that I guess the woman or whatever that Atticus was fighting or whatnot was from back in his war times. I guess he killed this woman or whatnot back then. And then that's something that they were just, it was all mind games. And Uncle George was just reminding them, like, don't let they're just trying to create fear and scare us. Don't let whatever they showed you change of who you think you are. Like he was telling Atticus, like, you are strong, you're a good you're a good boy, you're a good man. Don't let that whatever he tried to talk about what he saw. He's like, don't even worry about it. You know who you are. And then he was like, Letty, you strong, whatever, and y'all yeah, just keep it together. And then Tick asked him, like, what'd you see, Uncle Joy? He's like, don't worry about it. And I was like, because you saw his mama, and that's a little strange. I'm like, you and mama had something going on. Like, yeah, okay. So from there, they get ready. Let me make sure I'm on the right. Oh, and then Charlotte, before, well, as this all happening, Charlotte, like when she left away from Tick or whatnot, she ran to go to the farmhouse or whatever, and it's like you could see that it was a cow that was going into labor, and she went to go birth the cow, but when she pulled the fuck out of the cow, it was not a damn cow, it was a dango one of them monster little things, babies. I was like, they're breeding it through the animals. I was confused because I thought that them things was like the people that went missing, because clearly when they bite somebody, a person, they turn into that, but they actually birthing these things too. I'm like, what the fuck? So y'all, it's just strange, but y'all know this is the sci-fi stuff or whatever. But anyway, so it gets to let me see. Hold on. Let me see. We get to dinner, and it's dinner with all the lodge members, and you can see that the lodge members are not checking for Tick and Uncle George. And then all of a sudden, Fitz walk in. Well, Mr. Braithwaite or whatever, he walk in with his ceremonial robe. He's the only one that's in his ceremonial robe, and he was talking about the sacrifices that everybody has made in order to whatever to push forward in history or whatever the fuck he was talking about. And then all of a sudden they serve dinner, and it's like a slice of his liver or whatever the fuck it was. I'm like, this is dinner? That's disgusting. And he was like, oh, so everybody eat. And then Tick was like, hey, Uncle, don't eat that shit. So from that point, Uncle George stands up and he was like, oh, he tells them that he's found a little secret room, and he's like, yeah. He says how he's a member of Prince Henry or something, the Freemasons, and he's told the story of Henry or whatnot, and how he wanted to join the regular original Freemasons, but they wouldn't let him in because he was black, and blah blah blah. And he was like, but all these fraternities and bylaws, and he said he read their bylaws, and according to the bylaws, that the sons of, I guess I'm gonna say the sons of Adam, because I think that's what the name is. I can't remember the name of these people, the actual order or whatever, but yeah, he was like, according to their bylaws, that anybody who is a direct descendant of Homeboy, whose manor that was, I guess they all still related, whatever, whoever's a direct descendant is not only a member of the order, but the regular members have to listen to whatever the fuck they say. So Atticus gets up and he says, I want everybody to leave the fucking room except for, maybe his name's Simon, I forgot, Fitz, whoever Fitz character's name is. So first they looking kind of reluctant, like, we ain't listening to this nigga. And then Fitz said a little bit more with some bass, not Fitz, Tick said a little bit more with some bass in his voice, like, I said, get the fuck out. And then they all left. So from there, he talks directly to, maybe his name's Simon, I'm just gonna say Fitz, Tony Goldwyn's character. He tells him, like, I order you to release my father to me. And he was like, just because I follow this stuff don't mean that I follow the complete rules of the order or whatnot. And he also informed him, just because I need your blood or whatnot and everything to do that doesn't mean, what did he say, just because you're essential doesn't mean you're something. It's pretty much like, don't get it twisted, like, just because I need you for this ceremony don't mean that I can't fuck you up or some shit like that. He said it in a different way, but y'all get the gist. And then he walked away. So from there, they like, fuck this, we about to get the fuck up out of here. So they go run, and they go back to back into town, and try to go see about Tick's father, Montrose. So they go and then get down there, and they look in, and they see Montrose's flask. They was like, this is your George was like, this is your father's, and they was like, oh, bet. So he definitely was in that dungeon down there, and then but he's not there at that point. And they were like, where the fuck did he go? And then Uncle George was like, the Count of Monte Cristo, which was, if y'all familiar with the story, he tunneled his way out to freedom and all that to go get his revenge. So then all of a sudden we start seeing somebody's hands coming up out the dirt, and I'm like, what the fuck, they got zombies and shit? But it was just Montrose coming up out the dirt. And as they were in there looking for Montrose and seeing the tunnel that he been down there in, because I'm like, he been down there for at least a couple weeks, so he tunneled his way through. But homegirl with the dogs came, and she was about to attack them, or she had a shotgun, was about to shoot them, but Letty came up on her and bust her in her skull, and that was the end of her. So they all came out and ran out of the tower to go find out where Montrose tunneled out to. Then they see Montrose, and he's like, what the hell y'all doing here? It's just a funny moment in the show. He was like, we came to rescue you. And then he was like, I ain't talked to you. He was like, you wrote to me and told me that you was in duress. He was like, I write to you one time. We ain't spoken 5 years. I write to you one time in duress, and all of a sudden you want to come up. Like, nigga, you is ungrateful. They came and risked their whole life and been through all types of fuck shit to come get your funky ass, and you real unappreciative right now talking about I could rescue myself. I'm like, nigga, whatever. So, and then Letty like, can we get the fuck up out of here, please? Because this shit is real up in here. Can we go? So from there, they get in the car and try to leave or whatnot. And as they're trying to leave, because they stole homegirl's car, as they get to the bridge, under the bridge part, all of a sudden the car smack. So it's got to be some type of spell that keeps them in there. So they all crash in the car. And then all of a sudden Fitz and his daughter or whatnot get out the car, and he got a gun and shit. I was like, oh, they about it now. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what they gonna do. And then he was like, told, I don't know what the fuck he said to them. I guess they need to come back, because he was about to do that ceremony. He was not planning about doing the ceremony, because remember he said that he was Adam, and the ceremony that he was trying to do, I forgot who told the story of the ceremony, and homeboy didn't get it right the last time. His great ancestor didn't get it right last time, but I guess because they couldn't decipher the words or the transcripts correctly. But Fitz, I guess, thinks that he has it down this time, and he gonna get it right. So at that point, he got a gun, and he was like, oh, we gonna do this ceremony. And he just shoots Letty for no reason. I'm like, dang, you could have been like, you could have just held them at gunpoint and be like, okay, we about to go back to the house. You ain't have to shoot nobody. But I guess he was like, look, I tried to do this a nice way, and y'all niggas didn't listen. So we about to shoot somebody. So he shoots her, and she's just sitting here, and she bleeding out, and Tick is just so upset. And he was like, then Fitz is like, hey, it's up to you. Is anybody else gonna get hurt? Be trying to get you back here to do the ceremony. And then he was like, just wait a minute. And then Fitz fucking shoots Uncle George too. Well, no, he shoots, and we don't see who it is, but it turns out he shoots Uncle George. So then it cuts. All of a sudden we see naked ass Atticus, and they preparing him, and it's all these the Amish women from the town are slathering him down in water and stuff and cleaning him up. And Charlotte goes, and she sits right in front of him where he getting cleaned up, and she's just getting a whole show of everything, his package and what he has to offer. She's just sitting there talking to him or whatnot. And then Atticus makes a very good point. He was like, well, the last time I checked, it wasn't called the daughters of Adam, it's the son, it's the sons. So she was like, she's been through all this stuff and everything, and he just gets in on it out of nowhere just because of a birthright. And she, been born, and she been doing all this shit this whole time, and she ain't got shit. It's fucked up because it's only a men's only club. And I'm like, yeah, girl, we get the short end of the stick. I mean, but you white, so you got way better stick than we do. But anyway, and from there, they're in that room that the lodge members were watching all of them in their rooms from. They in that room, and then he could see his uncle George laying on the bed bleeding out, his father sitting there, and Letty is laid out on the couch. Then out of nowhere we see Letty get up and start breathing again, because I'm like, I thought she was dead. So from there, Charlotte said, my father is of his word. He said that he would heal um Uncle George, once the ceremony had been complete or something. I'm like, okay, we'll see. But he healed Letty right there. I guess it's the show of good faith. I don't know what the fuck, why he healed her or whatever. So she's healed, and then she wake up and she like touching her bone, her stomach, because she could have sworn she was shot and died and shit. And he brought her back. I was like, what the fuck? So from there, they get him ready to go into this. Oh no, she has to give him this ring. So she puts this ring on him, and she tells him like, just because we have our fathers and she's like, well, in your case, your great 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 grandfathers, just because we have this in this lineage or whatever, doesn't mean that there's just so much stuff that we can do to change the path that they're trying to put us on. Like, she was just telling him like, it's just a little thing that you could do to change the path of where you're going. So she was kind of putting him on game, like, just because he's making you do this don't mean that you can figure a way to figure this out and get the fuck out of here. So he's her little information and all that. And then they got him in the ceremonial room, and Fitz is about to start, he started lighting up these orbs and shit, or these like electricity looking things or whatnot. And all of a sudden the electricity go, and then it's like a gate opens up and then like a force goes into Atticus, because they got him like chained up and shit on some slave looking shit. And then all of a sudden this gate opens, because like I said, he's trying to open the gates, because they're the sons of Adam. He's trying to open back up the gates to Eden, because he wants to go back to Eden and shit and become immortal or whatever. I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen once he steps through there. I don't know if he's gonna end up in Eden, or is he gonna turn this into some type of shit, or he just walk out immortal. We don't know what's gonna happen after that, but we see this portal open up on some Stargate looking shit, and then all of a sudden we see like vines and flowers and shit growing all around. And and then the poem and the reading of the poem, Whitey's on the Moon, starts playing as this is all happening, and he's screaming in distress and everything. And then as he's screaming, he like puts his hand over his over him, and he has that ring on, and he all of a sudden he sees a visual of a woman, which, okay, we can only assume that is a pregnant woman. We can only assume that is his great 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 ancestor, the slave Hannah or whatnot. She look like she angry and shit. So he said, I guess she comes through, and her spirit is blocking off the spell that he's doing to get back into Eden. And as that's all going on, and all the theatrics and everything, instead of everything coming to life, all of a sudden everything starts to die, and it looks like the shit's going awry at this point, and Fitz is still trying to go on with the ceremony or whatever, but it's not working. And then all of a sudden a burst comes out of Atticus and everything, and turns everybody up in that fucking room to stone, and they did. And then all of a sudden shit starts. Oh, and then the door where Letty and Montrose, I call him Omar, y'all, because from The Wire. And Montrose and before that, it's a scene. As this is going on, a scene happens, and it was between Montrose and Uncle George. And Uncle George, they were talking or whatnot, and he was talking to him about, some old shit back in the day. It's like, oh, why did you used to do this? And he was like, they were speaking on his father's abuse and everything. And he was telling him that, you got love in you. George was telling him, you got love in you. He's like, it just didn't look like George was going to make it, because he bleeding out at this point, and he got shot and shit. And he was like, you got to be nicer or be better and show love to Tick and everything. And then he goes on to say like, how Tick is his son. And I was like, what? So yes, Mama was doing both brothers apparently, and it seemed like a low key she might have been closer to Uncle George than Montrose. So I'm like, how she end up with him? They didn't get into details, but though if I heard it right, it's because he was like, Montrose was like, we said we'll leave that. He's like, I know about that. We said we're gonna leave that in the past and never speak of it. He's like, well, I ain't got much time, so I need you to look out for him and all. So I ain't gonna tell him you need him to look out for him, and you ain't never tell him you was his father. But anyway, y'all, you know them old school people, they be doing weird shit like that. I mean, people do that shit now, but it was crazy. So that's actually his father, according to what they said or whatever. So okay, so he was telling him to look out for and show more love to Atticus. And at that point, when all the thing in the other room, when they was turning to dust, the whole manor or castle shit is starting to explode and all that shit, just like it did before, because the fucking spell did not work, or it stopped working because the spirit of Hannah, I guess, came through and was like, fuck that shit, y'all ain't going to no Eden, fuck that. So everything's starting to crumble down, but the door ends up opening, letting Letty, Montrose, and Uncle George out. So they trying to escape because the whole thing's crumbling down. But Montrose is like, if we move him, he gonna bleed out. And I'm like, damn. So, but they was like, fuck it. If we don't get the fuck out of here, we all gonna die. So they try to move him out, and they get him out. And then Atticus, he's running from out of that ceremony fucking room, and he running. As he's running, we see the same path he's running is the same path that Hannah, his ancestor, ran while she was pregnant to get out of the fire. So we see the flames and the fire as how she ran through. And as he's running through, he runs past, and she's standing there with a book. And I'm like, what book is that? So she has some type of book in her hand that she ran out with. And he ran past, and her ghost or whatever disappears, and he runs through, and he gets out of the manor in time. Now, I don't know if Charlotte was still in the house, or if homeboy, the family friend, was still in the house at this time. They weren't in the ceremony room, so I don't know if they were still there, or if they died too. I don't know. So, because it didn't show them dying, or it didn't show that they were there at all. So, don't know if they died, but everybody else in that motherfucker died. And then the whole place imploded. And from there, Atticus got out, and then he sees Letty and them, they in a car, and then Letty comes out and they hug and whatnot, and he got out, and then he can see in Letty eye there's something wrong, and then he goes and he walks over to the car, and Montrose is holding, Uncle George, his brother, and he's sitting there crying because he bled out and he's dead. And that's real sad, y'all. I thought Courtney B. Vance was gonna be in this episode, in this series more, but as I was looking on a bit, now we're gonna, I guess, see more of Montrose or whatnot character. And y'all, and that's the end of the episode, but I just want to say a couple things at the end of this. I don't know now, because I thought the whole premise was finding the father, but they found him in episode 2, so I'm like, where are things going from here? And damn, R.I.P. Uncle George, because now Tick gotta go back and tell his wife and daughter that he died while they was going to go get Montrose and shit, and who knows how she gonna take that. So I haven't looked to see what the next episode is gonna be about, but I am confused as to where this show is going, because I mean, I don't know, y'all, I'm confused. But anyway, that was Lovecraft Country, and I'm sure it's a whole bunch more to come, and we'll see. I don't know. So if y'all rocking with it, I'm rocking with it. I'm curious to see where the rest of the season goes, because apparently it wasn't really just focused on that in that order of those people trying to get. And I want to know what Hannah, the slave, what she had in her arms. Is something going on with that book that she had in her arms? They need to find that. What else is going on? Because I know, but they did say that the sons of Adam or whatnot that was just one chapter. They're all around the world, as far as Uncle George was saying, because when he read that book or whatnot, he read it wasn't just, that was just one chapter. And so is the rest of the order gonna start coming after Atticus, or what? Or are they gonna try to use him as a conduit to get to immortality and all that stuff? So we'll see, y'all, in the next episodes coming up. R.I.P. Uncle George / Papa George, because that's his daddy on the low for real. I don't know if Montrose gonna tell him. He may not tell him, because he seemed like he was against telling Tick that he was his real father. So we'll see. All right, y'all. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all later. Love you, love you, love you. Peace. Bye.